back to my wall of stuff. My name would appear to be Paul Mounts. Time to review the 4th episode of Doctor Who Flux, the latest series of Doctor Who, which is screening on the BBC in the UK, 6:30ish, 6:20, depending on how long the episodes are. Apologies for this review coming up a little bit late. You've probably seen thousands by now, so you're not very much interested in what I'm going to say. This actually is my 3rd attempt at recording this. I had problems with the previous 2 for technical reasons. The first was that my cat just invaded the recording, was sticking her arse and her tail in the screen, and I felt I can't really put that up. Then I tried to record it again, and there was a problem with that, and I just haven't had a chance to get back in front of the camera to do it again. Now I have, so I'm going to do it. Village of the Angels, written by Chris Chibnall, the current showrunner, and Maxine Alderton, who made quite an impression on the show last year with the excellent Haunting of Villa Diodati episode. This was an interesting episode that reintroduced the Weeping Angels to the show. Now, they were created by Stephen Moffat for the 2007 Doctor Who series, the 3rd series in the revival. Of course, we know the Weeping Angels. They're these churchyard statue creatures who, if you look at them, or if you blink, they come closer towards you. You can't see them move. They just move when you blink. And eventually, if they touch you. And it's an interesting, it's a good idea. They absorb your quantum energy of the life that you haven't lived and project you back into the past. Really cool idea in Blink. They came back a few times after that, and I think every time they came back, they were less impressive and less effective. I don't think that previously they'd been capitalised on properly. Stephen Moffat, the previous showrunner, had the original idea and didn't really do enough with them. And I think there was always a problem with the Weeping Angels that you felt perhaps they really were a one-hit wonder. You didn't need to see them again. It was such a big hit of an idea in one episode. But I think what Chibnall and Maxine Alderton have done, they've thought about the Weeping Angels and thought about the other things that you could do with them, and they've capitalised on the things that have been done, such as the idea that whatever takes on the image of a Weeping Angel becomes an angel, which really opens things up interestingly in this episode. And they've made them a little bit more of a sentient threat, because there are some scenes where they're communicating, not directly, because I don't think we want to see the Weeping Angels talking, but they are able to communicate now by various means. And I think that makes them a little bit less of a blank page threat. You know, it gives them a bit more meaning, gives them a bit more purpose, if you like. Story, anyway, is that after the end of the previous episode, where the Weeping Angels have the TARDIS, the Doctor thwarts them by some means that I'm not entirely sure about, because it was all a bit loud and noisy and garbled. And the TARDIS pitches up in a little village in 1967 in England. This is a classic sort of Doctor Who location trope, really. And some great Doctor Who stories have been set in that. The Doctor Who Base Under Siege format, which we had in the Troughton era, in the 70s, they would do stories of villages under siege. Small, typical picture postcard English villages, that stereotype of the English village with the square and the little village pub and all that sort of stuff has been done a few times, most notably in the classic Demons in 1971, and we had the Image of the Fendal in 1977 and Stones of Blood in 78, which were all set out in the countryside in sort of rural locations. I think that creates that sort of almost gothic horror, if you like, folk horror in a way, that Doctor Who does so well and still does. So it's 1967. The Weeping Angels are back. A young girl, I think her name's Peggy, has disappeared and people are out looking for her. The Doctor meets up with wonderfully named Professor, I've forgotten his name, Eustace Jericho. It's funny, when I recorded this before, I couldn't remember his name, then it came back to me. Eustace Jericho, who is played by the brilliant Kevin McNally, who previously appeared in Doctor Who back in 1984, fact fans. He's doing research, sort of paranormal psychic research with Claire Brown. Now, she's the young woman that we met in the very first episode, if you may remember, when the TARDIS pitched up in Liverpool. She comes out of nowhere in the street, runs up to the Doctor and Yaz, clearly knows them, but they don't know her. Later on in that episode, we see her getting attacked by Weeping Angels and projected back in time. This is very much, I don't want to say timey-wimey because I hate that expression, but there are similarities here to that sort of Doctor Who thing of time doubling back on itself and time paradoxes and things, which Doctor Who at its best can actually do quite well. Excuse me, I'm just having a little drink of hot chocolate. So, the story that builds up, it's very hectic. I mean, this is 45 minutes that doesn't stop. Excuse me. The Weeping Angels are there en masse. The Doctor and the Professor and Claire barricade themselves into his home. The Doctor's trying to fend the Weeping Angels off and find some way to keep them away from the house, but there are so many of them And they break into the house, and of course, don't blink is the only defense against the weeping angels. Eventually, Claire, we see at some point, Claire is starting to sort of shed stone crumbs, stone dust, and she reveals to the Doctor that she is actually a weeping angel. She's becoming a weeping angel. The Doctor establishes a psychic link, and this then opens up links to previous Doctor Who storylines that we've had in the last year or so with the Division, this secret cabal of Time Lords who apparently use the Doctor, pre-Doctor, as a sort of a secret agent in lives that she doesn't know that she's previously had. And this sort of revisits that a little bit and opens the door to that being explored a bit more later in the series, and maybe the specials next year. It all builds up. Like I say, it's just breathlessly exciting. And the visuals, I want to mention the visuals particularly because they're breathtaking in this. They really are stunning. There's some great space sequences. The scenes of the angels. This is directed by Jamie Magnus Stone, who directed, I think, the first 2 episodes of the season, including The War of the Sontarans, where you had those brilliant shots of armies going into battle. Very brief shots, but very impressive shots. And you had those duplicated shots of lots of Sontarans. He's done the same thing here with the Weeping Angels, so we really see them in huge numbers gathered up around the village. Some really stunning visual scenes, really imaginative stuff. And there's lots of really quite nasty, creepy, horror-y bits here. It really plays to the strength of the Weeping Angels as scary. There's a scene where 2 characters are zapped back to 1901. In the past, they don't yet realise that they're in the past, and they confront the Weeping Angels again. But the Weeping Angels can only absorb your energy once, so when they touch the Weeping Angels, they just turn to rock and dust and crumble themselves. Really, really good visual. Other stuff going on, of course, because in this particular series, there's a lot going on in these episodes. Because it's a serial, which it makes it quite hard to judge each episode individually because they're all part of a bigger whole. I think once we've seen all 6 episodes, we can see the whole of the story. Things in part 1 and part 3 will make more sense because we've seen the whole story. And I think that applies here too, because we flash back to the character of Belle, played by, I think it's Rochella Sandell, who's out in space. She's trying to find Vinda, played by Jacob Anderson, because she's expecting a baby, and I have my own theory about that subplot. She's on this planet that's been ravaged by the Flux. She becomes aware that a strange visitation arrives and takes people away from the planet, but that turns out to be Azure, who is, of course, Swarm's cohort, who we've met earlier on in the series. Belle realises that this isn't a good thing, and she saves a character played by Neil off The Young Ones, which is quite funny. Not The Young Ones, sorry, The In-Betweeners. Oh, it's late. Neil from The In-Betweeners, whose name is temporarily eluded me. God, I'm terrible. So there's just so much going on in this episode, but it is really exciting, really well mounted, really well written. Jodie Whittaker, I want to put a special word in for, because I think her performance is superb in this. And I think she is actually, in this 3rd series now, she's really showing what she can do as the Doctor, because she's finally getting great quality material every week. And I think that's a whole other video really, I suppose. But I think that every year she's got better. I think she was establishing herself in the 1st series. 2nd series, she had meatier material and she was better. But in this, there's a real urgency and desperation in her, because she wants to know what's going on about her past. She wants to find... There's so much she's got to cope with. And as a character, I think that the actress brings that across really well. I think it's a really good performance. And I'm at the stage now where I'm sort of quite sorry that we won't see a bit more of it. It would have been really nice to see her in a 4th series. But of course, things are changing in the world of Doctor Who, so that's not going to happen. So a slightly garbled review. Apologies for that. I suppose in some ways it was a garbled episode because there was so much going on. But I think the through line of it with the Weeping Angels was something which casual viewers could just jump in on, and they could probably disregard all the stuff, the continuity stuff, if they haven't been watching regularly. But it's just certainly the best Weeping Angels episode, I'll say that now. Another really good episode of Flux, which is turning into an excellent series. I'm very, very pleased with this one. Let me know what you thought of it. Let me know what you thought of Doctor Who Flux Part 4. Leave a comment down below. Thumbs up for the video. Like and subscribe. Come back for more. The next Doctor Who episode is Survivors of the Flux, which is, if you saw the trailer at the end of last week's episode, features the return of Kate Lethbridge-Stewart, played by Gemma Redgrave. She hasn't been seen in the show for about 6 years. And it's the return of the unit, which is always, for an old school fan like me, it's always nice to see the unified intelligence task force back in action as we head towards the finishing line for Flux. Right, that's me done for now. Thank you very much for watching us. Like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And until I see you next time. What did they say again? Oh yeah, keep taking the stuff.